For the Engineering Society. I'll start off with the thing everyone's here for, the pizza. After I finish my little spiel here, you'll be able to go up and give your ticket into Cliff in exchange for one piece. Thank you all very much for carrying that out in an orderly fashion. We will be beginning with our Vice President of Operations candidates. They will have 5 minutes to open and close and 3 minutes to respond to each question. We will be doing the first speaker by coin toss, and then we'll just alternate every time. Any candidate has the option to ask for a rebuttal, and feel free to just flag me down, or you may ask over the microphone afterwards, whatever is fine. If you ask for a rebuttal, your opponent will also have a chance to respond to your rebuttal, and there will be no further discussion on the topic. Questions will be coming from the audience. If you have a question, please come line up behind me. You will have to get your question approved by me before you can ask it. We will also be taking some questions from the live stream as well as from Twitter. If you have any more lighthearted questions, please save them towards the end of the debate. We will have our closing after the last question is asked or after the question being discussed at 7:15, whichever happens first. Let's keep debates positive, and thank you all so much for coming. So without further ado, please line up in an orderly fashion with Cliff to grab a slice of pizza. If after the question, we're debating at 7:15. So if we're in the middle of a question at 7:15, that will be the last question.
How do you do? Do you have a Gmail? Oh, wait. Yeah,
So as a note to the candidates, I'll give you a 1-minute warning and then I'll count down the last 10 seconds on my hand. Once again, you'll have 5 minutes for your opening close and 3 minutes to answer each question. Understood? Are there any questions before we begin? All right. Candidate Reed, you may go ahead.
Hello everyone, thanks for coming out. My name is Jill, and I'm ready to be your next Vice President of Operations. So the reason why I'm sort of interested in running for Vice President of Operations is because I have a strong interest in finance and IT, and I'm super excited about working with all the 6 services and helping them and supporting them however I can. I'm also very passionate about helping the finance and IT portfolio to be as efficient as possible. Now I'd like to talk about my platform. My first point of my platform is create seamless transitions and positions within EngSoc and all of its services. So first of all, EngSoc is EngSoc is a very great society, as every year has a yearly turnover, which is great because that allows as many people as possible to be involved. However, with yearly turnover rates, this results in loss of projects that take longer than a year, or transition periods for some services, they can take like almost 4 months, which is also great, but then you're spending 4 months of your term transitioning, which is quite a large amount of your transition time, or quite a large amount of your term. So I would like to try to make transitions a little bit more efficient, to try to so that hopefully this can make the services as efficient as possible as well. I'd like to do this by, first off, altering position manuals or transition manuals. So instead of maybe when you're transitioning, focusing on writing up the perfect transition manual, focusing on the actual transition, and then maybe making the transition manual more like a list of operations that you have to do in a checklist form rather than a whole bunch of paragraphs that you have to read through. Because realistically, we're all engineers and we learn by doing and not reading. I know I sure do. And then secondly, I'd like to introduce something called a year in review document, where you pretty much write about a page to 2 pages on what you did in your position that year. After a couple years, once this is built up, and maybe like 4 or 5 years later, when people who don't even know they're going to Queen's yet are going to be like the next head of Clark, or the engineering coordinator, or the director of IT, they'll be able to look at these to see, okay, like this person attempted project A. Okay, they either failed or succeeded. If they failed, why did they fail? Okay, I want to reattempt project A, but how am I going to reattempt this without failing the same way? Because who wants to fail twice? Nobody. So that's sort of the idea behind the year review documents, but it will take like a couple of years before they become super useful. About 2 years. And the next part about transition is making aware to everyone who's involved in the society and just anyone in general that we have access to Office 365, which is a great resource. A lot of people don't know, but with your position, you have a full OneDrive where you can literally just like log on, all your files are there. So when the next person comes, they can just log on and all the files are there, and it makes transition super seamless and easy for years to come. My next point of my platform is to continue projects within the IT portfolio. So currently there's 2 different projects sort of underway by the IT team. The first one is EngSoc Dash, which is sort of like the new EngSoc 5, and the second one is improving the website. So I would like to continue these projects by providing any support via resources or staff to provide even more support, especially for improving the website with like runtime, removing dead links, as well as the overall design, is contracting it out over the summer. So paying a student a little bit of money to work on the website. I see this as a win-win situation. The student gets a little bit of money. They also get professional development and something to add to their portfolio while they're applying for a job. And the engineering society wins as we get a new website, which I think is awesome. So these are my 2 points on my platform, and I'm very excited I'm looking forward to debating with Liam.
1 minute.
And yeah, thank you everyone. I think that's all I have to say. Okay, thanks for coming.
We will now have our next opening.
That's
Whenever you're ready.
Hi, my name is Liam Tharp. I'm a second-year engineering physics student, and I would love to be your vice president of operations because I feel like I have a lot to offer the society. You find that the engineering society, at least from my perspective, does often become a bubble, where everything that happens inside is inside, and everything that happens outside is outside. What I have is I wasn't involved in the engineering society a lot last year, and I've participated in a couple events as a frac, and just as a friend of a couple people, but I've never held an official position within the engineering society. So I have a fresh opinion. This doesn't mean that I don't understand how it works. I have done a lot of reading over the past couple of weeks and over the past couple of months to find out how the engineering society works. I plan on attending more council meetings to see how that specific thing works. Now, my platform points are, honestly, they're not too technical. What I would love to focus on is everybody. The engineers, the people who are involved in the engineering society, and the people who aren't, and making that less of a bubble. A lot of people only interact with society insofar as the tea at the tea room and a beer with Clark, and that is absolutely awesome. That is fine. That is what the engineering society offers to a large percentage of its students. However, honestly, what I'm trying to focus on is that line it's too long. You don't have time to walk out of class on the 3rd floor, get to Sterling Law, because I know I wanted to do this multiple times after 8:30, so just grab a coffee. And if I can improve that, I think that's a quantifiable goal that actually makes a large difference in a lot of people's lives. Now, removing the bubble is another thing that I'd like to focus on, and sometimes that's just showing what the engineering society is doing. So what I would like to do is, as the Vice President of Operations, I directly oversee the Director of Services, and I would like to provide quantifiable service metrics and just put out maybe a Facebook post every week, maybe a flyer. That's something I'd work with the current and the successor of the Director of Services right now. Now, that's my first point, and the other thing that I would really like to focus on is wellness. Wellness is something that is very near and dear to my heart, and engineering promotes a culture that is very conducive to a lot of work getting done, and everything always happens, and there's always something. And I have an assignment to do, and I have a lab, and I have a tutorial to get to tomorrow where I have to finish this. And sometimes you get a little spiraled up and you get tightly wound, and that's not really helpful. It gets a lot of stuff done, and a lot of people here work really well under those conditions. However, I think the Engineering Wellness Center is a center that is a service, not specifically an engineering society service, but a service that is very underappreciated. It has a lot of publicity already. It has Wellness Week, which was a massive undertaking. I talked to the current head of the Engineering Wellness Center. That was massive, and it helped a lot of people. The Engineering Wellness Center is also discussed during Frosh Week. However, I found personally, when I'm going through my Facebook feed, which is where I get a large percentage of my news, that it kind of dropped off after that. So I would love to work with the Wellness Center to improve the Wellness Week. That's something that I think is an awesome initiative that can go a lot further than it is now, even though it is doing beyond what anyone expected it to do for such a young organization. I would also love to work with just continual promotion, and that does not fall directly under the scope of the Vice President of Operations, I understand that. I would love to make it more so that, because they are day-to-day operations, and just making it more viable is something that I'd love to do. Those are my 2 points. I don't have a really complicated platform. I'm just a regular guy who's trying to make a really quantifiable difference in the lives of every single engineer. Thank you very much, and shorter lines for better times.
You can stay up. We'll be answering the first question first. And our first question, I believe, comes from Director Snook.
Hey guys, just want to say, Tyler Snook, Director of Services. Just want to say congratulations on your campaign so far. Day 2, you guys have put in a lot of work. My question for you is, what do you think the services do best, and how do you plan on improving or, keeping that going over the next year?
Am I allowed to take 30 seconds to think?
3 minutes.
3 minutes? Okay. What do the services do best? See, that's a hard question, and I love talking it up because the services do a lot of things really well. What do they do best? The services do a lot by way of promotion. I find that they're very good, and I'm always seeing things about the tea room, the new promotion. Seek was there today. Clark every single week does a lot of promotion, like a lot of promotional things. And that is the biggest thing for improving business, or for improving revenue. That gets a lot of people involved, and that gives the people who are working there a lot of experience. Because really, Team and Clark, the businesses, but they are not structured to make money. They are not the money makers of the university, to be honest. What they do is they provide experiences for people who can work they provide experiences for people that they can take with them for the rest of their lives. It's very rare that you find people who are doing as much as the director of services, as well as the service managers in their day-to-day operations. Promotions is a really big part of that, because without everyone knowing, no one's going to come and the services won't be as busy. I believe that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Could I get the question repeated?
Yeah. So, what do you think our services do the best, and how do you plan on improving or continuing that if elected vice president of operations?
Okay. First off, I would like to thank you for your question, Tyler. It's a wonderful one. So I'd say initially, like what the services do best, the first thing that comes to my mind is putting a smile on everyone's face. It's so great when you go to tea room and you get like a nice cup of coffee, or like my favorite is chai tea lattes, or you go to Clark and you get a nice beer. I think the services have put a smile on everyone's face in engineering. That being said, I also think the way that they operate for being solely student run is amazing. If you look at other engineering societies throughout Canada, most of them do not run a pub, a tea room, a newspaper, icons, and this is one. Science class. Yes, my favorites. They're all my favorites. So I think that the amount of the way that they operate, being completely student run with no experience, is amazing. I mean, there's people in tea room who are like the operations manager, where they have to go out and talk to people and try to make business deals, which is a real world experience. So I think that is what they do best. How I would like to keep this going is reaching back to my platform, is trying to have smooth transitions, so that, like I said, that time of that transition period can be done efficiently, and then that time is not wasted throughout the transition. But just to close, I'd like to say that definitely putting a smile on everyone's face, because I know it has put a smile on mine many times. Thank you, Tyler, again.
Stay at the podium.
Oh, yeah.
Our next question will be from President Sawatsky.
Hi, so I'm Taylor. I'm the president of the Engineering Society. So I want to know, what do you want your relationship with the president to look like, and how do you plan to achieve this?
Okay, so how I see the relationship with the president, and I'm just going to touch on the student, or thank you, Taylor, for your question as well. So I think the relationship between like the whole executive, pres, student affairs, is that you should be able to have a relationship where you know what's going on in everyone's portfolio, but not to the point where you're actually running the community. So, but to the point where if they were to get in a car accident and had to go to the hospital and was hospitalized, that you would be able to step in and help out their portfolio and things wouldn't shatter. I also think that the best way that a team can be constructed is nobody's perfect. Everyone has strengths and weaknesses. So the president, VPSA, and VP Op should all have different strengths and different weaknesses, so that wherever I'm lacking, especially with running the ED team, maybe the president can make up for that, or VPSA can make up for that, or wherever the president's lacking, I can make up for that. And that's what I think, that's what makes the best team, and that's how I plan to interact with the president, as well as meeting with them weekly. I think meeting with them weekly is very important. Yeah, thanks, Taylor.
Thank you again, Taylor, for your great question. I think it's very valid, and I think it's something that does need to be addressed. I think that the 3 executive members of the ED team have a lot on their plate. They have massive portfolios, and they put massive amounts of time into this job. I think they do work very well together, but it is also very easy to get yourself trapped up in someone else's work. So I think I'm going to be a bit opposite of Jill on this one. I think that a very good, strong relationship is necessary, but I don't think communication every single day about every single issue is a big thing. I like weekly meetings. I agree with Jill on that. Weekly meetings are great, and they keep you up to date on everything. They give you, like, and as she said, if someone gets hit in the car, you know what happened up to 6 days ago. And I think that's absolutely necessary. I do find that I personally get very involved in every single issue that I find interesting. I would love to stick more onto my portfolio, stick with the services. However, the relationship with the president should definitely be one that's very open. So maybe not talking every single day, but if there's something, like if they need a consultation, if they want advice from someone, if they want advice from the VP Ops, the VPSA, the executive team should work together. Just maybe not talking about every single little issue. I think weekly meetings are the best way to go about this. And thank you very much.
Stay at the podium, please. All right, our next question comes from Eleanor McCauley.
Many services, clubs, events, and conferences bank with the Engineering Society. How will you make changes to the current financial system to ensure that it best meets all of their diverse needs?
Thank you very much. I spoke with Connor, the current director of finances, and he finds that the society works very well when he's working very well. I think that what we need is more support for specifically the director of finances. There are people looking in front. I think that the society works well when he's working well, and he does need more support. He does have, I'm forgetting the name, constable or something of that sort. He does have someone who does support him. However, I think that is not enough. There is a lot that is done, but he just finds that he has a lot on his plate. So for me, I find that as the Vice President of Operations, I would love to support my Director of Finances because I feel like that falls under his portfolio and he is in the Vice President of Operations pot. I feel like hiring another person would greatly benefit him and maybe lighten his load. I think this could also help the society grow in that if we have more ability to process more transactions, there's more cash flow. You find that you can get the transactions processed, maybe not, they go once a week right now, they go out on Mondays. I think maybe if we could do Mondays and Fridays, or Mondays and Thursdays, just so we could do the beginning of the week and the middle of the week. If that proves viable, I would definitely have to consult with my Director of Finances and their possible 2 concerts. Thank you.
Thank you, Eleanor, for your question. Could you repeat it one more time?
Absolutely. With many services, clubs, events, and conferences bank with the Engineering Society, how will you make changes to the current financial system to ensure that it meets their diverse needs?
Okay. So for those of you who aren't super aware of how the financial system works, it's pretty much the Engineering Society has a Director of Finance as well as Vice President of Operations who both work very hands-on with the finances, as well as a bookkeeper who sort of does the more like the legitimate stuff to make sure that everything's legal, as finances can be very difficult. I have taken accounting, so I have seen like how important it is to a corporation or an organization like EngSoc. So to touch on the services are very unique as they all use Simply Accounting, which is awesome. However, there is a bit of delay because how it works is that the services, the business manager will go into Simply Accounting, put everything in, and then it goes to the accountant who will re-enter things and then send the monthlies to the services, and by that time it's too late to make any differences. So looking into that and trying to improve that system and maybe shortening the chain of where all that information goes to making it a little bit shorter so the services can get their monthlies on time so they can actually use it in the future to try to make great choices would be a great way to start. Of course, I have to understand a little bit more about the actual relationship with the accountant and how that works. As far as other clubs, such as EngLinks right now is under the finances, a big part of the finances actually right now, as well as Sci Formal, they have a large budget. Frosh Week has a huge budget, and all the clubs have all their budgets as well, and all the directors, they have large budgets as well. Like Director of Teen has a very large budget, as well as internal affairs, they both have their up there. So they are very diverse. I think the way that EngSoc is approaching the financial system right now is great. However, there is improvement for a little bit more organization through what I've learned talking to Connor quite a bit. It can be improved. But at the end of the day, we have to remember here that we're all students and nothing's going to be perfect. So it's okay to have a few glitches here and there because we're all learning here. And the point of the engineering society is to benefit students. So whether you make a bit of a mistake, but you're learning from it, you're benefiting a student, you're fulfilling the goal of the engineering society to benefit students, which is amazing. So there is definitely room for improvement, and especially with all the different clubs, right now it's working, which is awesome. And I can see that there is ways to make it more efficient, and I have to understand the system a little bit more to be able to say exactly how to make those more efficient. But overall, I'd like to say that it's doing good already, considering that we're all learning here. Thank you.
Our next question comes from the live stream from a man some of you might know named Andrew Crawford. So, the Vice President of Operations portfolio is the backbone of EngSoc's day-to-day. How will you ensure that everyone involved in the portfolio, not the Vice President of Operations themselves, can fulfill their roles?
Okay. I'd like to say thank you, Andrew, for your question. So, so as Vice President of Operations, you oversee, for those who don't know, Director of Finance, Director of IT, as well as Director of Services, which then oversees all of the services. So that's a lot of people. Services also see all of their management team, and then all the people who work for the services. So I think you really have to set boundaries within your job, as well as your directors, Director of IT, Finance, and Services. You have to make sure that those boundaries are clear about what you're doing and what they're doing, and then as well as meeting them regularly to make sure that they're staying on track and providing them with whatever support that they want, but as well as trusting that they'll get the job done. As it's easy to sort of say, okay, don't worry, I'll do it, like don't worry about it, and keep saying that eventually to the point where you're doing someone's full portfolio, as you want to do everything because you love helping people, it's awesome. However, you have to be able to trust the people that you're working with, and be able to say, no, I know you've got this, you can handle it, and trust that they'll do it. Now, if they don't do it, you can say, okay, like give them a timeline, check in with them a couple of days later, see like, is it done? Like this is maybe give like I like to give deadlines that are an easy deadline first, to say this is when it should be done, and then a hard deadline where it's saying if this isn't done, consequences are going to happen, and that may result in people not getting their paychecks on time from Director of Finance when things aren't done up to speed, or websites crashing if Director of IT isn't responding to his emails, etc. I also would say that ensuring that you hire good directors who are passionate about their roles and are willing to work super hard. Because OpsPod, everyone in OpsPod works super hard and they're working with people who are getting paid. And I know how that feels to work with people and they're getting paid and you're doing work that's very difficult. And sometimes you're doing the exact same thing as them, but you're doing it for free. And that can be a little bit difficult, but if you hire the right people who are passionate about it, it won't matter. And I am very passionate about this, so for me, I'm indifferent about that. Thank you very much.
Would it be possible for me to read here?
Yes. The Vice President Operations portfolio is the backbone of EngSoc's day-to-day. How will you ensure that everyone involved in the portfolio, not the Vice President of Operations themselves, can fulfill their roles?
As was mentioned in the question, the Vice President of Operations and that pod basically keeps the light on, make sure everything's going in the morning, and make sure everything's closed down at night. It's basically their backing up the hatches and making sure that everything else can go on top of that. So I think that what's really important with making sure that this team can work efficiently is the team. Way more important to me than a lot of the jobs that are done is the people and how they're going to do it. Because if you're not going to enjoy working with your team, you're not like, if you don't like the people, you're not going to want to work with them. So I think that's a lot to do with the hiring and the people that you look at hiring. I think that there are certain qualities that I would love to find. I want other people who love working in teams. There is something to be said for setting clear boundaries about this is something that I expect every single week. This is just something that has to be done. This falls into your portfolio. And honestly, I don't think it should fall into mine. I think this is just bare minimum. And then there's always stuff that falls into every director's portfolio. the director of services, one of the services is missing a product for one of, like if the CEO has a late order, that's something that Tyler should be able to deal with. But if it's impossible to deal with that, I think that it gets escalated. I think that there is a lot of, like, setting clear boundaries, finding awesome people to work with are the two things that I love to focus on. Clear boundaries, make sure that everyone knows what they're doing, and if there's something beyond that, I am very happy to work with anyone who has any problems, both in the ops pod and out of the ops pod. However, I would like to go back and say I focus more on the team and the responsibilities and just having a base minimum. Also, weekly meetings, and with the ops pod, I would love to have a more open discourse. I would love to have just, hey, I have this problem. If you think...
1 minute.
Sorry?
One
hey,
minute.
you have this problem. If you think I can help with it, don't feel like you can't come to me. I am there. I am a support role. I feel like the Vice President of Operations has a very large role, but he acts almost bigger. His role is more of a support for the rest of his ops pod. Thank you very much.
All right, our next question is from our current Vice President of Operations, Tyler Bennett.
Thanks, Avery. So the services are obviously a big part of the VP Ops portfolio, as we've heard tonight. How do you plan to manage your relationship with the service managers while acting as a resource for them, while respecting their autonomy to manage their own service?
The services are obviously a very large part of the Vice President of Operations portfolio, and managing the Director of Services and the service managers is something that is very hard to do. Respecting autonomy is very hard. So what I would love to do is I'm a big believer in the weekly meetings. When I worked this summer, they helped everything work more smoothly. The weekly meetings, I think, should be set up so you have 4 hours blocked off every Saturday so you can meet every single service manager. If they say, if they message you on Friday and say, there's really nothing to report, I can send you an email saying everything that happened this week, that's not necessary. But I think that there should be an option to have a meeting every single week. I think so that's basically trying to respect their autonomy. They are allowed to make all of the decisions. That is their portfolio. That falls under them. If they have problems, they go up to the director of the services. I keep on referring to Ms. Tyler because that's who the current one is. It's confusing to Tyler's. If Tyler feels like this is a problem that has to get escalated, I think then it gets escalated to me. However, I respect the director of services a lot, and I think that he has almost a more important role in that he decides whether he can deal with it. He feels like he is well equipped to deal with all of these problems that the service managers might come to him with. If he feels that he is unable to deal with it and there is more that has to be done, I am absolutely fine with escalating that to me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tyler, very much for your question. If you can repeat it one more time.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome.
I can find it. So obviously the services are a big part of the VP Ops portfolio, as we've heard tonight. How do you plan to manage your relationship with the service managers while acting as a resource while respecting their autonomy to manage their own service?
Okay, so first of all, I look into, it really depends on who the director of services is. Like I touched on before, everyone has strengths and weaknesses. It depends on who the director of services are and how my strengths would play in with their strengths and how our weaknesses play in together. And I think that will really depend on how we interact with the service managers. As maybe, if Doss has a little bit more experience with helping out with marketing and sort of promoting the services and getting everyone super excited, and I have more experience helping out with financial, and that's sort of how the trade-off would be, or vice versa. It really depends on the Doss and how they're going to operate. So that's my first point. I'd also like to make it clear with the services that I'm there as a support and just letting them know that anything you need, just ask. That's what I'm here for. I'm here as a resource, and I'm here if you want something, I'm going to try to get it for you if it's reasonable. So just ask for anything you want. And then outlining how issues should be dealt with. As VP Ops is a large role, and there's a lot on your plate, and you don't want to try to put extra things on your plate that you don't need on your plate. Because if you take too much on, you're going to burn out, and you're not going to want to do it anymore. It's going to be not fun. So about being able to realize that you're one person, you can only take on so much. I do like to think I can take on a lot, and I've learned that you can only do so much, right? You can't do everything. So being able to make it clear to the service heads that you trust them, first of all, that you trust them and you hired them, so that means that you trust them to do their job, else you wouldn't hire them for that position. So that you trust them and that whenever they need help, you're willing to help them. So then there becomes a situation when something goes wrong. So what do you do when something goes wrong? Okay, if it goes wrong in tea room and the staff say the coffee machine breaks. Okay, first the staff are going to go and talk to the managers. And then the managers, if they can't deal with it, they're going to go talk to DOS. And then if DOS needs more help, then it's going to go to VP Ops. Because if it goes straight up to VP Ops and we're skipping people, then VP Ops is going to have too much on their plate, because every day there's going to be something, realistically. There's never going to be a smooth day in the ops portfolio. Tea room or Clark's always open. Science Quest is open all summer. Golden Words is always writing newspapers, and they come out on Wednesday, so there's always issues with that. As well as Icons are operating every day. So there's always something happening, and there's always opportunity for something to go wrong. To summarize, I'd like to say making sure that it's very clear that you're a resource and that you trust them to do their job, as well as defining that clear relationship with DOTS and VP Ops to make sure you have a great balance with the service. Thank you.
Thank you both.
All right. Our next question comes from Jamil Perani.
Hello, everyone. It's important for the Vice President of Operations to look at the success of the services on a timescale longer than 1 year. Where do you see the services as a whole going in the next 5 years?
Okay. Thank you, Jamil, for your question. So right now the services are very defined. And I see them staying hopefully as similar as possible, and hopefully nothing, there's a possibility of always losing space in a tea room in Clark. That is a possibility, so hopefully that doesn't happen. There's a lot of things surrounding the services that just we don't have control over, like the space, like that is something that the university sort of, they have a bit of control over that over us. However, okay, I also see there being room for another service, EngSoc. I see that being a part of the service portfolio eventually. I've worked very hard with EngSoc as being the EngSoc coordinator, and it operates like a service, and it's not a service. We are half of the finance portfolio. We are the person who submits the most check recs. Like, we should have a medal for it, because we submit the most check recs and submit the most money. And I think that they deserve their own bank account and should be able to operate, like, be a service and be part of the capital fund, because they are a service and they are benefiting students. You know, our services cover all different parts of student life. Tea rooms, so getting your coffee and food. Clark, having your fun. Golden Words, having entertainment. And Icons, having a place to support you while you study. As well as Science Quest, providing jobs for people over the summer. So where's that one that's going to help support students academically? It's not there. We have lots of other areas. And I also see professional development sort of reaching into that as well, because there needs to be something to support students as they grow throughout university, and it should be established enough as a service. A lot of people don't know that EngSoc isn't part of the 6 services. They always think it is, but it's not, because it is very similar. So I see that is how, over the next 5 years, the service portfolio is definitely going to change. That is where it's going to change the most, because I don't think Tea Room and Clark, they're very established as they are, and they're super successful, and everyone changes it, so everyone likes it. So why would you change something that you like? So to conclude, I think that all the services are awesome, and there is room for tiny improvements, but as of for now, in the next 5 years, they'll probably stay pretty static, which is awesome, because they are awesome. And then room for a new service, EngLinks, where it's going to provide a different aspect to the services, providing academic support. Thank you very much.
I'd just like to quickly announce that since we did get started a little late on this, we're going to be extending 15 minutes. So the question that is going on at 7:30 will be our last question. That being said.
Is it possible
Yeah, for sure. It's important for the Vice President of Operations to look at the success of the services on a timescale longer than 1 year. Where do you see the services as a whole going in the next 5 years?
I'd like to address the first point made that it's necessary to evaluate the services on a timescale longer than 1 year. I think that this is a very hard thing to do, especially with the 6 services that we have right now. I think Tea Room and Clark are very easily quantified because you have numbers. Sorry, Tea Room, Clark, and CEO are very easily quantified. You make money. Science Quest is also something that's very autonomous. I don't think that's going to have a large change in the next 5 years. I think Golden Words is going to see a shift in the next 5 years, being that it will shift more online. Circulation has been declining for Golden Words in the past years since the internet has become more popular, and I think that making that a more integral part of Golden Words is something that's definitely needed. The website right now is good, however, it is not up to par, and there are a lot of things that the icons don't really have a lot of quantifiable metrics that you can evaluate them on besides providing access to the IRC for students to set. I do agree with Jill about EngLinks and that it should become a service. However, I can't speak to that as well as she will, so I'll just leave that right now. I think the CEO is actually something that is actually quite undervalued. We talk a lot about Tea Room and Clark, and they're big money makers. And CEO is actually something that's very important. CEO provides a service that is named. Everyone wears their GPAs. Everyone wears a lot of Queen's memorabilia, and that just gives Queen's a name beyond the school. I think that that's something that needs to continue to grow and expand. Beyond that, I think the services are doing very well. I think Golden Words will shift online. CEO should continue to expand. Clark and the Tea Room, I do hope they continue at the pace that they are, because in the past years they've been performing very well. Beyond that, I think that's all I can say. Thank you very much.
Our next question will be from our Vice President of Student Affairs, Evan Dressel.
Hi. So just a bit of background. So a lot of our clubs and teams actually have to host external bank accounts, whether it be with the faculty or owned by themselves. So why should clubs and teams bank with the Engineering Society rather than the faculty or by themselves?
Thank you very much for your question, Evan. That's quite insightful. The fact is, a lot of these clubs and teams do get their budget from the Engineering Society, and it might be a pain for them to have to bank externally. However, I think it's very important that they do remain internal. These clubs and teams get their money from the. Sorry, is this okay? Sorry. These clubs and teams get their money from the Engineering Society, and I do believe that banking externally might be a pain, but it's something that's definitely necessary to promote that needs for the Engineering Society itself, the Director of Finances, the Vice President of Operations, and everyone that might have to interact with that. It also makes the role of the bookkeeper easier. Thank you very much. And that's all I can say.
Thank you, Evan, very much for your question. Can you repeat it one more time, please?
Yes, of course. So why should clubs and teams bank with EngSoc rather than by the Why should clubs and teams bank with the Engineering Society rather than with the faculty or by themselves?
Okay, I think this comes down to transferring risk. So when they are banking by themselves, there is insurance. That comes with that, and a lot of liability that could come with that. It is pretty simple. However, if you bank with Engineering Society, you just transfer all that risk to them, and then if something goes wrong, or if something goes wrong with your budget, or you have to pay for something, you don't have to worry about it because the Engineering Society is going to take that risk on for you, essentially. I also think that it will make the load a little bit easier for them, as the Director of Finance already does a lot of clubs already, so to add one more isn't going to make that much more work for them. So I think that is another reason why it will make their lives a little bit more easier. However, there are some downfalls because their budget has to be approved within the Engineering Society, and some people may not like that. So that's something that they have to sort of like be willing to do. But overall, I think that the reason why they should do it is because transferring the risk, as well as making the load a little bit lighter for them, so they can really focus on what they're passionate about what their club does or that design team.
We have a next question? Did you already answer this one? All right, so our next question comes from Emily Townsend.
Emily Townsend, as briefly as possible, please. What are your thoughts on discipline clubs and teams using Tilt to collect money for clothing orders, tickets, and other things?
Okay, thank you, Emily, for your question. I don't think Tilt should be used because it isn't the most secure thing. EngSoc has implemented Stripe. I've used Stripe with EngLinks, and it works. I think it works excellent. Currently there is a way. It's pretty easy. You like make up. I know how to do it. You make up an event on WordPress, and then you can make an event, and you just put like it shows up on the EngSoc website. And this system is also it can be integrated with any website that EngSoc hosts. So essentially, EngSoc, I think it hosts over 40 websites. So that is probably a lot of the discipline clubs and design teams. So they already have the access to be able to put the Stripe option on their own website, and it makes it super easy because it's going to be, they can put it on their own website. It's not like it has to go on EngSoc's website, and they have full control over it. However, the money just goes straight to the engineering society, and then the director of finance can like sort of lead out, like they'll figure out on their end what they'll do with how that gets divided up. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that question. Do you think I could hear it once more?
Yeah, so as briefly as possible, what are your thoughts on discipline clubs and teams using Tilt to collect ticket money and other associated costs such as club clothing?
I believe that this is much more of a gray area. Tilt is an unsecure financial method, and it's not honestly the best. However, it does have many advantages in that it is widespread and it is used by a lot of people. I think that what you have to look at is more a case-by-case basis. And obviously, transferring to a more secure method is something that's a long-term goal. But I think expecting everyone to use that is not going to happen, and you're going to get lower returns when you're looking at events. I think if you look at maybe just an example of tickets, I think Tilt is a perfectly acceptable way for that to happen because there isn't a lot of money that's getting transferred around, and it allows ease of access for the general student populace. I think Tilt is something that we can work with as an interim tool. I think it shouldn't be used long term, and obviously it's not it's not a very secure, and it's not good to try and focus on that now, but I think we can use it for now as an interim tool, and then we can try and transfer to something more suitable, like Swipe, as was mentioned. To be honest, I don't have much experience with that. Thank you.
All right, our next question comes from President Swatsky.
All right, so my question is, how do you plan to help the gradual transition of EngLinks to a service? Where do you see your role coming in with the President, Director of Academics, and EngLinks Coordinator?
I could hear that one more time just so I can get all the points.
How do you plan to help the gradual transition of EngLinks to a service? Where do you see your role coming in with the President, Director of Academics, and EngLinks Coordinator?
I think that the role of the Vice President of Operations is obviously one that has a lot to do with this transition. However, I think that there was one person that was overlooked, and I think that's the Director of Finances, who will be doing a lot of the transition since he obviously deals with the bookkeeping. The EngLinks Coordinator, I think, has to work very closely with the Director of Finances. I don't know what my role specifically would be in that. However, I would love to facilitate talking, and I think the role of the Vice President of Operations is a lot of communication between people who wouldn't normally interact. I think the Director of Academics is someone that would have to work almost independently from me because I'm not sure how they would interact with these specific operations. I think the President would obviously oversee more. I think the President would work very closely with the Director of Academics and the EngLinks Coordinator, and the Vice President of Operations would work very closely with the Director of Finances, the Director of Services, to integrate them as a service, as well as the EngLinks Coordinator. The EngLinks Coordinator, in my mind, is the bridge between a lot of this, and they do a lot of the work. However, they should not feel unsupported by the engineering engineering society. Thank you.
Thank you, Taylor, very much for your question. So I love EngSoc, so this is awesome because I get to talk about EngSoc, which is one of my favorite things to talk about. So there are a couple of things that need to happen for EngSoc to transition into a service. So the first thing being that they need their own bank account. That is something that has to happen. Currently, the Director of Finance does our bookkeeping, but they don't actually have any record of how much money was spent on what. That is all kept within the EngSoc's management team and the EngSoc's coordinator. And they do have records of everything that's being kept, everything that's been spent and how much money's been made on each workshop, etc. Secondly, what needs to happen is we need to be able to, EngSoc has to be able to quantifiably measure their success. The best way to do that, as of right now, is to send out feedback surveys after tutoring sessions as well as after workshops. The next thing that needs to happen is the management team needs to get paid, because all the other services, all the other managers are paid. However, EngSoc's management team is not paid, and everyone that they work with, all of the staff, they're paid, which is a little bit like, okay, that's awesome, but the amount of work that the management team does should require payment, and a lot of it is a lot of hard work that's not fun. Well, it's fun most of the time. Sometimes sitting in the lounge and printing for 5 hours is not the most fun thing to do. So those are the three things that need to happen. How are we going to do this? Well, the big jump to officially when EngSoc will be a service is when it jumps to having its own bank account. That's going to be the big step. And so right now, all these little baby steps need to be taken to be able to get there. For example, paying the management team. So that is one of the steps that could be implemented this year, starting for the management team in September. It's going to cost about, I believe, about $9,000 for the whole year to pay the management team a decent amount. It won't be as much as any of the other services, but it will be a start, and it will also promote getting the right people in these positions who are passionate about it, because if they're getting paid, they'll be a little bit more excited about doing the position, and just that little bit of money at the end of the week is going to encourage them to do the best job that they can. So those are the things that need to happen. So like I said, the bank account needs to happen, measuring things, as well as the service heads being paid. Other than that, EngSoc operates like a service, so it really is just those few things that are just blocking us. It's mostly the bank account. Thank you very much for your question, Taylor.
All right, our next question is from Erica Moran.
Hi, what are your plans for promoting student involvement in the services, particularly when it comes to Science Quest, which operates in a different season from the other services?
Thank you very much, Erica, for your question. So my plan is to, sorry, one second. Can you repeat the question one more time?
What are your plans for promoting student involvement in the services, particularly Science Quest, which operates in a different season?
Okay, Science Quest is a service that does a lot, but nobody knows it does a lot because nobody's here when it is operating like 100 kids in the ILC every single day of the summer, which is a lot of kids, not a lot of revenue. And a lot of people don't realize that because they sort of just see Science Quest on the weekends here and there doing their workshops. So being able to, that student involvement is, the best thing about the services, especially the management team, is providing professional development for individuals and allowing them to gain experience where they don't have to have experience before to get that experience. Because it's hard to get jobs when you don't have anything like concrete on your resume, but saying, oh, I was the outreach coordinator for Science Quest, you know, that's something that you can talk to and you can put on your resume, and when you go to an interview, you're able to talk to it. So making it, advertising that to students, and that's why they should get involved, as well as being a part of Science Quest, being able to be a camp counselor in the summer, or as well as a camp, I don't know if it's camp counselor, but workshop leader throughout the school year. So advertising those jobs out to people, as well as, to summarize, I'd like to say, being able to advertise those positions out and making it clear of how much it can impact their life getting involved with those positions, and that being providing professional development for individuals. Thank you, Erica.
You think you could repeat the question just one more time?
Of course. What are your plans for promoting student involvement in the services, particularly Science Quest, which operates in a different season?
So my plans for promoting student involvement are very simple, and the Science Quest is a product that basically sells itself. Everyone is looking for experience at this point. Everyone wants that experience. And basically, you just have to get it out there. So that's working with the promotions team. That's working, basically, you just, and this doesn't fall directly under the Vice President of Operations, promoting all of that. I don't believe so. I think that's more Director of Services, which ipso facto is under Vice President of Operations. But what I would love to do is integrate that more into more of the services, looking at Clark, looking at Tune, and just putting up ads there, maybe have more things running on the TV. I know I see them when I go to Clark. I think that promoting student involvement in Science Quest is something that's quite easily done. Everyone does want that experience. I know I've said this before. So, what I would like to do is I would like to work with the Director of Services and the other services to make sure that it is promoted throughout the Engineering Society, as well as working with the promotions team inside the Engineering Society. Thank you very much.
And our final question of the night will come from Eleanor McCauley.
Choose your most important platform point. Do you think this is realistic, and what is your comprehensive plan to accomplish it?
This question is one that I will quite enjoy answering because it's something that I love to do. My platform point that I'd love to improve, the platform point that I think is most important is improving the lives of every single engineer at Queen's Engineering. Shorter lines for better times. I think that is something that is quite not easily done, but it is something that can be worked towards. I think that what you have to do is you have to work with the current service manager of the tea room, and as well as the new one. I think you have to talk to them because obviously they're the one who has the most experience. You could also talk to the Director of Services. What I would like to do is I would just like to review all the meeting notes that Tyler Bennett would have with the Director of Services and the service manager, just to see what problems were encountered and how you can possibly be proactive about those as well as reactive. I think the proactivity is really what you need to focus on there. I think talking to the service manager is something that you don't have that experience, they do. You talk to them, and you definitely warn the incoming service manager of all these problems. Make sure that they're transitioned very well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Eleanor, very much for your question. I have two platform points. The first one is to increase smoother transitions throughout services as well as the ED team. And my second point is to improve the IT within the Engineering Society. I think my most realistic one is improving the IT, as it is something that can happen right away. The service, or improving transition is awesome, but it will take a couple years until something actually great comes from that. And I understand that, and I'm aware of that. Whereas the updating the website can be contracted out this summer, and it can be done by September. EngSoc Dash is already on its way. It just needs that extra little push to keep it going and to make sure that a smooth transition happens between the next Director of IT and the current Director of IT, so that project doesn't truncate and it keeps going. I think these are two things that are very attainable, and it's happening. Like, you know, the website is slowly being updated, and EngSoc Dash is in the making, so I think it is very possible, it is definitely possible for those to continue, especially the website. Anyone can use WordPress. It's a very easy system to use. It doesn't take very long to use it. I've used it multiple times. I've never had a problem with it. So being able to contract that out, it's just about finding the right person to do it. And we're filled with the School of Engineers, lots of people who are looking for opportunities to gain professional development, make maybe a little bit extra money, as well as do something to benefit a large amount of students. Updating a website so that when people go to it and they can actually find links and be able to click on things and not end up at a dead link. That's happened to me a couple of times. I was trying to find the nomination package, and I had to go through Facebook to find it because the search couldn't find the right thing, and there's all these dead links. And that's just one person to sit at the computer and gut out the website and fix it up and make sure that everything's there where it's supposed to be. And that is attainable just as long as we can find the right person to do the job. It can happen over the summer. Thank you very much. Thanks, Eleanor.
All right, that was our final question, so we will now move into closing remarks, beginning with Joey. Yep. Sorry.
I just thought because I didn't said close thoughts, but that's okay. Okay, first off, I would like to say thank you everyone for coming out to listen to the VP Ops debate, and hopefully you're staying for the VP essay. Just to summarize some key points from the debate. First off, EngSoc's transitioning into a service. This is something that has been brought up a couple of times throughout the debate, and it's definitely something that will be happening within the next year, if not 2 years, and will definitely impact the engineering society within the next 5 years. It's something that has to be thought about now because it also will have to be thought about later. As well as the relationship between the service heads and the rest of the EE team. So my biggest thing about the relationships between people is being able to find people's strengths and find their weaknesses, and by knowing your strengths and knowing your weaknesses, and being able to fill those gaps so that everything can be reached and everything can be accomplished. I would just like to say that if elected, I will give all my time, all my effort into this. I'm someone who has I'm very organized and I have great time management skills. I have been engineering coordinator where I've had to juggle a large time commitment during exams, and I've had to be able to say, okay, there's a lot going on right now, but I can do it because I've been able to manage my time effectively, and also being able to manage my time where I have spots where I have nothing planned, so that when something goes wrong, I'm able to say, oh, I planned time for this. I just didn't know what I was going to use it for, but I knew I was going to have to use it for something. That is how I have great time management. As well as experience with EngLinks, I've worked with the Director of IT as well as the Director of Finance in creating a new workshop sign-in system that uses, the workshop sign-in system, getting it up on our website, requiring us to work with the Director of IT and then Director of Finance, integrating the Stripe into that. We worked with the Director of Finance to get that all set up, and it's running and it works great, and I'm super happy that I was able to incorporate that into EngLinks with some help from other people. And some other experiences I've had is over the summer I had an accounting job where I worked for a nonprofit organization. I was a bit of their general manager as it was a pretty small organization, but I did all their accounting in QuickBooks, so I am familiar with accounting software. As well as I updated their website, sent out newsletters, all those little tedious things operational-wise, I did for them. So I have experience in a very similar job, just at a much smaller scale. I also went to the castle and I have taken the Global Project Management Program, and I am very aware of all the different project management approaches on how to solve problems, as well as how to work with different types of people. Those are some of the experiences that I have that make me a great candidate for this position. I'm someone who loves to solve problems, and I like challenges. I find life boring if nothing is difficult. That's how I am. That's what I like to be. So anything to take away from this whole debate is that I'm a keener. I love to work hard. Like, it's one of my favorite things to do. I don't relax. Like, I'm not good at it. That's probably the thing I'm like worst at, is like sitting down and doing nothing. So I'm a keener, and whenever I do something, I'm not going to give 100%. I'm not going to give 80%. I'm going to give 150%, and I'm going to give it my all. I will never do something halfway. That's just the type of person I am, and I believe I've shown this to people throughout the different roles I've held. Well, on that note, I would like to thank Liam for the debate. I enjoyed talking to you. I'd like to thank everyone for their questions. I really enjoyed talking about EngLinks, as well as all the services, and IT, and finances, as well as a little bit of the discipline clubs and conferences and how they come into play with IT as well as finance. On that note, I hope everyone has a great evening, and remember next Monday when you vote Jillian Green for Vice President of Operations. Thanks, guys.
I would first of all like to thank everyone for coming out and listening to all of this, regardless of how much you listen to. I saw maybe a couple of people coming in and out. What I'd like to focus on if I become Vice President of Operations is teaming. It's not possible for one person to do everything. That's just not feasible. The Engineering Society is a very, very large business. And working with a large team, or not even a large team, working with a small team of very good individuals is probably my favorite thing to do. I focused a lot on not having Engineering Society positions in my opening. Now what I would like to focus on is the relevant experience that I do have. This summer, I worked as a project coordinator for a multi-million-dollar company, EngSoc, which is an engineering architecture firm. What they did on not day one, they gave me a couple days to get my feet, and then on day 4, they gave me a decently large portfolio and said, here, don't mess it up. That was a really, really good learning tool for me, and it taught me a lot about a lot more of the job is figuring out what you have to do. This job is something where that's not as big of an issue. You have a very, very good transition team that lets you know exactly what you have to do. And then it's up to you. You get to see where you can take it from there. You know your responsibilities. I believe that working with the ops pod would be an experience that I would love to have. I think it would benefit me in my professional career. Again, to just go over my platform points, I'd like to say I want to improve the life of every single Queen's engineer, whether or not they're involved in the Engineering Society. Everyone is a Queen's engineer. I would also love to interweave wellness. I didn't have enough of a chance to talk about that during this debate. If you would like to find out more, my website is liam4vpops.com, Liam for VP Ops. All the information is up there. I encourage you to go find out more. I love working with teams. I love working with the Engineering Society. I've had a bit of a taste of it this year, and it's very enjoyable. Thank you very much, and I hope next Monday, Tuesday, when you vote, Liam for VP Ops. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you to both candidates. We will now be moving on to our Vice President Student Affairs debate. Yeah, absolutely. We'll take a short break first. So if we did.
4 minutes.
4 minutes.
You might want to move the next half as well. I don't know how bad it's going to be. They might give it to
Let's go.
We'll be shooting for the last question at about 8:30. We flipped the coin earlier, and candidate Jeans will be delivering the first opening.
Hey, so first of all, thanks for everyone that stuck around for the VPSA debate. So my name is Juliana Jeans, but most people call me JJ. I'm in third year biomechanical engineering, and I'm ready to be your next vice president of student affairs. So in first year, I was really excited about getting involved. So I became a member of first year executive, and I was also a first year project coordinator. In my second year, I was able to continue working with the Engineering Society as the Director of Internal Affairs, which was an amazing experience to work with the executive and director team. This past year, I took a small step back from being a director, but I've been representing Site 18 as a Site 18 AMS rep on Engineering Society Council and the Alma Mater Society Assembly. I believe that my experiences since I've been at Queen's will allow me to be a qualified, productive, and enthusiastic Vice President of Student Affairs. So there's a few main areas of growth that I'm interested in the society. The first area that I'd like to address is accessibility. I want to make sure that all of our events, positions, and also just our spaces in general are accessible to our students. The next thing, I want to make sure that all of our students feel comfortable both applying for our positions, coming to our events, and first of all, if they're actually able to make it to our events, regardless of any ability or disability that they may have. Something that's really important to me is that the average student is comfortable in our engineering society spaces, such as the ILC lounge and also the Clark lounge. Something else that I'm really interested in is making the engineering society a more equitable society as a whole. I would like to do this by ensuring that all of our employees, volunteers, student leaders, and basically just any student who's interested in this training is able to receive adequate equity training that's provided by the AMS. Something else that's really important to me, and that I would like to take on as a VPSA, would be to ensure that our discipline clubs receive all of the resources that they need to enhance our student experience as a whole. They're the ones that are most closely connected to our students on that academic level, and I think that they should be able to have more resources to run their own personal workshops for some upper year courses that EngLinks might not have the reach to get to, which is completely fair. My final platform point that I just want to talk about really quickly is ensuring that our membership is represented adequately at the higher levels of the university, mainly with the Alma Mater Society. I think that my experience as a director and as an AMS rep will allow me to interact with the new AMS executive to ensure that our students' needs are taken into consideration when large university-wide decisions are made, such as fall reading break, things like that. I'm really excited to talk more about my platform points and any questions that you guys have, and I'd like to thank Cody for debating with me tonight. Thank you.
Alright, hi everyone. My name is Cody Becker. I'm in second year engineering physics, and I'm running to be your next Vice President of Student Affairs. I'm passionate about empowering students, creating opportunities, and fostering community. And I believe that the Engineering Society is a vessel of opportunity, and steered correctly, can provide opportunities for people to pursue their goals, as well as find their passions. I want to hear from you, the students. I want to hear what your opinions are and what your perspectives are. And I want to provide the best support I can in whatever pursuits you have. Whether you're in a first year with a goal or an idea, or a fourth year as head of a design team or head of a conference, I want to provide you with the help and opportunities for you to pursue goals and to find your passions. Through listening, I believe I can connect you to opportunities, and if those opportunities don't exist, I can help you create them. I want to empower students to find their passions, to pursue them, and make the most of their experience here at Queen's. Additionally, I believe we foster here a great community. I want to continue fostering this community, whether it's the first day that you step foot on campus and during Frosh Week, or when you're passing people in the halls. The community here has great weight and is amazing as an everyday experience. I want to continue to foster this, and I want to build upon it in the future. So, a little about me. I've been kind of involved with the Engineering Society ever since first year, through communications team, design teams, as well as recently as Constitutional Group for the Engineering Society. Yes, that is an official title, just so you all know. But I've never really truly been part of any leadership position. And I believe this gives me a different perspective and an opportunity to see things from your guys' perspective as students. And with that, I believe that I can go forth and create these opportunities and help you guys out in finding whatever you're interested in and helping you out with it. So finally, if you ever want to talk, if you have an idea, a perspective, I'm more than happy to chat anytime, either online or if you want to find me somewhere on campus. I'm more than happy to chat, and I guess I'm excited to see your guys' questions.
All right, you can stay up there. Our first question. Oh, sorry, go ahead. My bad. Our first question will be coming from our current Vice President of Student Affairs, Evan Dressel.
Hi. So how do you plan to work with discipline clubs to ensure that all of their events are sanctioned properly?
So the biggest point here would be communication. I believe in communicating with the discipline clubs, making it known that as an engineering society, we are there to help them in whatever pursuits they have, whatever events they have. We can help them do it both in the spirit of the engineering society as well as with equity. These events hosted by the discipline clubs, they help bring students together. They help in keeping students connected to their faculty, as well as to sometimes their profs, sometimes different opportunities that they can take forth. And making sure that the engineering society is there, communicating with the discipline clubs on an ongoing basis would be an important part in making these events better and making sanctioning a better process too. Thank you.
So first of all, thanks for your question, Evan. So I think it's really important, first of all, to establish a relationship with the discipline clubs. I would like to continue sort of having an open forum with them. Hopefully, at the beginning of the year, have a meeting with all of the discipline club reps and just stress the importance of getting their event sanctioned in the first place. It's kind of, I think it's difficult to sort of expect these students to do this thing if they don't understand why they need to do it, and that reason is insurance, obviously, but it's just really important to make sure that they understand why their events need to be sanctioned for their own personal well-being and liability. I would also be prepared to work with the Vice President of Operations of the Alma Mater Society to ensure that the process of getting an event sanctioned stays as quick and painless as possible for our discipline clubs, and also just make sure that I'm there as a resource to help them get their event sanctioned if ever they need a hand with that.
All right, our next question from Jamil Peretti.
Hi. The fall term break is an issue that most engineers are passionately against. How would you ensure that the views of engineers are heard by the people who will make the final decision?
So, Jamil, thanks for the question. So yeah, fall term break tends to be a very passionate issue for not only our students, but students of other faculties as well. During my time sitting on AMS Assembly, I've witnessed this firsthand that all of the undergraduate students at the university are very passionate about this issue and have a lot of opinions. I do think it's important to ensure that our students' voices are not lost sort of in the large population of undergraduate students as a whole. I think my experience working with larger bodies such as the AMS will help me to sort of bridge the communication gap between the Engineering Society and the AMS, as well as the other faculties, so we can sort of come to an agreement on what's best for undergrads as a whole and Queens.
All right, thanks, Camille, for the question. So, in discussing with a lot of students, I remember over the past year, as well as throughout this year, there is a big divide between what we as engineers value, as well as what other people in other faculties value. And I believe that to bridge this gap, there needs to be a lot more communication between the Engineering Society, as well as the AMS and all the respective committees under them, such as the fall term reading committee. And make it known that these are our opinions, have weight behind them in garnering support, so gaining actual quotes from people, communicating with them, and seeing what their actual opinions are on the stage. Forwarding these to EMS and actively communicating with them to make it known that we as students in the engineering faculty believe these things to be true and want to work with them to make the best of the situation would be a big point to make. So with that respect, I believe it goes back to communication. It's just making sure that everyone understands each other's opinions while still respecting the opinions of everyone else too. Thanks.
All right. Our next question from President Sawatsky.
All right, sorry. Page. So what do you want your relationship with the president to look like, and how will you achieve this?
So my relationship with the president would work in a very collaborative way. I believe they are two distinct roles. They have their own portfolios and their own responsibilities, but despite that, they are both members of a team. So in that respect, they should definitely collaborate, shoot ideas off each other, as well as help each other in whatever endeavors they have. So it requires a lot of trust between them, and it requires that each understands the other person and what they're trying to achieve with their goals. Additionally, it requires a lot of support. So not just simply with my support in relation to the president, but also everyone on the team's support. So making sure that it's entirely a collaborative endeavor and that everyone's working together with a common goal of helping each other out. Thank you.
So thanks for your question, Taylor. I definitely think the relationship between the entire executive really, but I guess in this sense specifically the president and the VPSA comes down to communication and collaboration. So I'd really like to make sure that there's always open lines of communication between myself and the other members of the executive. And I also think something that is really important that I witnessed when I was a director between the executive members that I worked under is that they all helped each other with their roles when times got really busy and times got stressful. I know the VPSA, when I was a director, would do a lot of the management of the executive and director team when the president simply wasn't able to do it. And I think stuff like that is really important. And also, hopefully, the president would be able to do that if things ever got really stressful in the VPSA portfolio. But definitely, I just think open communication and making sure that you're always there for the other person if they need your help.
All right, our next question from Shannon Dixon.
I'd like to know what is the first priority task or project you intend to take action on should you be elected to this position, and what action would you take? How?
Sorry, can you just repeat that?
What's the first priority task or project you intend to take on should you be elected, and how would you do so?
Right. So I think this doesn't directly relate to any of my platform points, but that's great. That's awesome. I love to talk about other stuff. I think the first thing that the executive needs to do once they get elected is establish a really strong director team. I believe that this year's executive did a phenomenal job in hiring their director team. It's one of the strongest I've ever seen. It's actually kind of amazing how qualified and great everyone is doing at their jobs. So I definitely think establishing with the other members of the executive sort of the team dynamics that you're looking for, what qualifications you think these positions need, things like that. And then during the hiring process, making sure that you're working towards a productive team dynamic for your director team. Just that's something that I think this year's executive did really well, and they put a lot of time and effort into, obviously. And yeah, I think that's the first thing that I want to make sure gets done. Thanks.
Thanks, Shannon, for the question. So first priority task would probably be to assemble a great team of people and individuals who are passionate about what they do, and then brainstorm ideas. So interface with them as a team and see what their goals are as individuals in their roles, what they see as important to do, and make sure that all these goals, these passions are understood and are acknowledged. Additionally, it's interfacing with the students too, making sure we can understand what they want out of this experience, what they want out of the engineering society, and what they think we can provide. And setting these goals as concrete goals that we as a team can provide, and make them clear that we're there to make them happen.
All right, our next question from our current Director of Services, Max Lindley-Peart. Design, that's what I said. I'm sorry.
Wonderful. So I was wondering, what benefits can the Engineering Society bring to our engineering design teams, and how do you see that relationship growing under your term?
So I believe the Engineering Society can bring a lot of benefits to design teams in collaboration with them. We as an Engineering Society have a lot of structure that can help support them both financially and administratively, so that they can focus on what they have a passion to do, is make amazing things and in pursuit of just making amazing things. So I believe with that collaboration in mind, we can make it known that as an engineering society we support them in whatever endeavors they have, and in continually trying to make their lives easier so they can focus on their goals, as well as simply help them out in any way possible. We're a large engineering society with a lot of resources we can provide to them, and I believe that fully utilizing that would be greatly beneficial for them. Thanks, Max.
Thanks, Max. So I think the most important thing that we can offer to our design teams is actually our director of design. And I think it's really important for the next director of design to continue the work that Max has started in improving our relationship with the faculty. I think that's really, it's so valuable to our design teams that we, and therefore they, have a good relationship with our faculty, because they provide a lot of things for the design team, which sort of moves into my next point, which is space. I think we need to continue to advocate for spaces for our design teams. I know that the current team is working on sort of an application for design teams to receive their spaces for Belmont, and I definitely think that's really important. We have a lot of teams and not a lot of space, but I think definitely something that future executives need to look into is advocating for more space for our teams, especially when the new building gets finished. Make sure that we are getting some portion of that for our student design teams, clubs, everything like that.
Okay, our next question is from the live stream. What types of experiences should the Engineering Society provide in the pursuit of personal growth for its members? How should this be balanced with providing fun?
So something that I was speaking with some of the director team about this year is trying to provide more positions for our students that don't require them to interview for. So things like fix and clean, where you can kind of just sign up, participate, have some fun with your friends or your cross group, anything like that. And you're helping your community, you're having a good time, and everyone's happy. Balance with fun. I think the balance with fun sort of comes from when you're working in a group or a team with people, such as working on an event or club, things like that. We need to make sure that our students who are really, they're volunteers, they're not being overrun. They're here to gain experience and help the engineering society, I guess, but they shouldn't be breaking their backs for it. They should still be having a good time while they're doing this and still be able to reap the benefits of these positions.
Could you repeat the question, please?
Absolutely. What types of experiences should the Engineering Society provide in the pursuit of personal growth for its members? How should this be balanced with providing fun?
I think I'll address the second point first. I don't believe that necessarily fun has to be mutually exclusive from experience. I believe that any experience that you get should be fun. If you're passionate about doing it, then you're more likely to enjoy doing it, you're more likely to do it further in your life, and continue doing it further for a longer set of time. As for experiences provided, the Engineering Society, having such a broad portfolio with the various different directors, design teams, conferences, everyone needs help. And I believe that the more people collaborating together, the more great ideas come out of it, and the more benefit everyone gets out of it. So I believe that providing the opportunities for people to help out in whichever way they think they can would be a big thing to emphasize on. And if it's fun, then all that.
Okay, our next question from our Vice President Dressel.
So this has been briefly touched on, but what is your list of priorities for design team space allocation?
So probably the biggest thing to emphasize with design team space is as more design teams are created, as they currently are being, we're going to start losing space allocated to other design teams. And I guess the biggest priority is to figure out who needs that space for whatever projects they need at what time in the year, and to make sure that they have adequate space to do their projects. Whether it be here or in another building, and interfacing with those in charge of buildings to make sure they have that space would be probably the biggest priority. Second would be to find ways of allocating more space. There's a lot of space that is used for storage that could be used for active space. There's a lot of space that some people don't use that could be used in a beneficial way. And I believe that finding the space, kind of addressing what it's doing right now and how to better benefit from it would be the best way to go about it. Thanks, Evan.
Am I allowed to ask a clarifying question?
Sure.
Do you mean like when allocating space to the design teams, like what things should be taken into consideration?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So I think the physical needs of what the design team is actually doing or building definitely is one. We don't need a team that's building tiny robots in like a huge design bay. That's unnecessary. Also, as Cody previously mentioned, the schedule, what time of year they're competing, what time of year they're building or doing all of their work. The team size, how many people they actually have working on their projects at a time. And the last thing I want to touch on is how competitive the team is. I do think that our teams that are at a more competitive level, and be that like national, international, all of those things need to be given the space that they require to continue to grow and continue to put Queen's engineering on the map for design teams and competitions.
All right, our next question from President Sawatsky.
All right, my question is a bit of a two-part question. So I'm looking for two things. One thing you admire most about the person you're running against in personality, and one thing in platform.
Thank you for that question. I love that question. So something I admire about Cody so much, from the first day I met him last year when I was in second year and he was in first year, he was able to put a smile on my face so easily. He was always so pleasant and so optimistic when he would come into the Engineering Society lounge, and he would greet everyone, so outgoing, and you could always tell that he would just make everyone feel really good about themselves, and even if they were having not the best day, he would always make it a little bit better. Something about Cody's platform that I really admire is that he wants to help our students get more involved from the get-go. I think that's really important. I would also love to work on that, and I just really admire Cody's platform.
Thank you, Juliana. I kind of have butterflies because of that. Honestly. Something I really admire about Juliana is she's always fun and optimistic. She's always engaging and always trying to get people to be happy, whether it be through memes or just being an excellent person all around. I really admire what you do. As for platform points, I really like the idea of organization. I do believe that everything could use a little more organization, and it would be a great point to kind of further on through the Engineering Society and helping people collaborate and making the Engineering Society a great place. Thanks, Taylor.
All right, our next question comes from the live stream. What do you think is the biggest obstacle to getting more engineering students involved here at Queen's? How would you work with your Pres and Vice President of Operations to remedy this?
The biggest obstacle, I believe, in getting people involved is the lack of communication about the ways people can get involved. We have hundreds of opportunities on the Engineering Society, not simply just Freck and Plant and through Frosh Week, but throughout the year. There's plenty of positions which maybe only one or two people know about, and those are the people who are doing it right now. And I believe that just communicating with people, getting the word out there, advertising and talking on a daily basis with people about opportunities available to them, whether they're looking for something specific or just looking for a way to get involved, I believe that that would be the biggest obstacle, just making it known that these positions are available. Because if they know they're available, people will be interested. Thank you.
So something that I see as the biggest obstacle for our students getting involved is either the time commitment in getting involved or the perceived time commitment in getting involved. Something I would like to do or work with the other executive members on is something that I touched on earlier, but creating more sort of low commitment positions that are easier to access, as in you don't have to do a formal interview, because I know that that can scare a lot of people off. A lot of first years talk about one of the first things that we did with the Engineering Society, other than orientation week, is fix and clean, and it's a really, like, it's one day you get to experience helping your community with the Engineering Society and with some of your friends, and a lot of people cite that as a really important experience in their time here. I would love to work with the other executive members to create more opportunities like that. I'm not exactly sure what those would be at this point, but I'm definitely open to working with them on that.
Our next question from our Director of Community Outreach, Emma Howard.
So the Vice President of Student Affairs has a really large portfolio overseeing conferences, design teams, and discipline clubs, which comprise like way more students than you could count even if you had 100 hands. So how would you go about ensuring that the needs of these numerous and diverse student groups are met, and what management skills do you bring to assist them?
Thanks. So, I think this starts with hiring the director team, making sure that the people that you hire, specifically as your director of conferences and director of design, are ready to take on that role and manage a lot of these high-level positions such as conference chairs, design team, captains, all that kind of stuff. Hopefully, if you have those people and they're confident in their positions and their roles and they're doing their jobs properly, there won't be a lot of sort of like micromanagement that the vice president of student affairs has to deal with. In terms of discipline clubs, as I said earlier, I would love to continue discipline club forums, meeting as regularly as possible with representatives from each of these clubs. I think that my experience as the director of internal affairs will help me. I gained a lot of management skills. I managed definitely a smaller team of people, like elections team and the team that I work with on Engineering Society Council. But I do think that I have the skills needed to motivate and help out whenever I'm needed in these specific areas.
All right, so thanks everyone for the question. And first and foremost, I do believe in teamwork. Above all, the Engineering Society is governed by the 3 executive and the directors. And having a collaborative environment between these people to support each other in whatever endeavors they need to, they are pursuing, and ensuring that everyone's needs are met is a big part of teamwork. So in ensuring discipline clubs, conferences, design teams, all their needs are met would be very dependent on this teamwork. Having great people who are there passionate about what they do, hired in their positions to do that, to do that job. Additionally, I believe that it requires a lot of communication. Communication between the design teams, between discipline clubs, between various different directors as well as the executive, and kind of this network of communication would be very important in maintaining that all needs are met throughout. As for myself, I believe that I am one of those people who will always make time to talk. I believe in communicating and would prefer to talk to people directly than by email, and I'm more than happy to talk with anyone, whether they have a small concern or a big concern, and I believe that this is one of my strong points, that I'm always happy to talk, I'm always happy to discuss ideas and hopefully find solutions if there's ever a problem. Thanks again.
All right, our next question from Tyler Bennett.
All right, so last week the Alma Mater Society dissolved their Commission on Environmental Affairs. Do you think we're doing enough as a society to lessen our environmental impact? And if not, how do you plan to change that?
So, as a society, I believe we are quite aware of our impact. We definitely strive to be as least environmentally damaging as possible, and I do respect that as a society. I do believe that we are doing quite a bit to help with environmental endeavors, such as Evan's pursuit of creating compost bins around the ILC. Additionally, we have the Tea Room, which is, of course, an environmentally friendly coffee shop. Despite this, there's always room for improvement. I believe that finding the small ways that we can reduce environmental impact, such as recently not printing as much paper for council reports, stuff like that, and finding the small things that do matter in the long run would be very important to reducing environmental impact. Thanks, Tom.
Yeah.
Sorry, I couldn't hear.
No, for sure. So last week, the Alma Mater Society dissolved the Commission on Environmental Affairs. Do you think we're doing enough as a society to lessen our environmental impact? And if not, how do you plan to change it?
Right. So, as Tyler said, the Commission on Environmental Affairs took the first step to being dissolved last week. Something that our Alma Mater Society delegation actually proposed is that a committee of all the people who work to better the environment that work under the AMS. So those are people that work with individual services, other commissions within the Alma Mater Society. We asked that a committee of those people be formed. I think something that we could do to further help our impact on the environment is to put someone on the committee with those people so that we are sort of in the loop with what's going on in other parts of the AMS. We can kind of, if someone has a really good idea, we can like piggyback on it. Like there's nothing wrong with that. There will be people on that committee hopefully from TAPS and things like that as well, so that can probably help us with our service side of things. And yeah, I also did want to mention that a few steps this year have been taken. Leanne is printing less for council, which is really awesome. Evan's got the compost bins coming in soon, and that's hopefully going to be really great for us around the ILC. Yeah, thanks.
All right, our next question from our Director of Conferences, Taylor Sweet.
Okay, so the Engineering Society is supposed to be an equal opportunity organization, but many of our constituents experience barriers to participation, such as lack of financial means to attend conferences, participate in Frosh Week, or acquire an applied science jacket. How do you propose to ensure that every student can benefit from all that the society has to offer?
Thanks, Taylor. So I've been lucky enough this year to be a member of the newly formed bursary committee of the Engineering Society. Something that I'm really hoping we can do as a committee is look at what other societies are doing for their students in terms of bursaries. The Commerce Society has a really good application and decision-making process to sort of analyze student need and who needs bursaries and how much they need and sort of organize that. So I'm really hoping I can continue my work with the bursary committee if I do get elected and ensure that our students are able to apply for the bursaries they need. A lot of students don't even know that we have bursaries for things like jackets, conferences, orientation week, whether it be as a Frosh or a FREC, things like that. I really just want to make sure that that is known to more students and hopefully simplify the process so more people feel like they can actually apply for those things. Thanks.
Would you be able to repeat the question, please?
Yep. Awesome. So the Engineering Society is supposed to be an equal opportunity organization, but many of our constituents experience barriers to participation, such as lack of financial means to attend conferences, participate in Frosh Week, or obtain an applied science jacket. How do you propose to ensure that every student can benefit from all that the society has to offer?
Okay. So thank you for the question, first of all. I would be a strong believer in working with people individually. If they have concerns, I want to talk to them, and I want them to have the opportunity to come talk to us as an Engineering Society so that they know we're there to support them, and we're there to help them out with whatever concerns they have. I believe that that also requires an element of knowing that we're available for that, to provide resources, to provide help, and to be there to hear their concerns. Additionally, it'd be a strong point, additionally, if they have great ideas, to let that idea be known. Share that idea, try and go forth with it, and implement them on a widespread so that other people can benefit from that idea. But definitely working with people to make sure that that these services are available, working with them to try and find solutions in whatever way possible, and implementing these solutions as they come available. Thanks.
All right, our next question from President Sawatzky.
All right, so where do you believe the discipline clubs fit in our society? They take on many initiatives similar to the society, yet are generally very disjoint. Where do you believe the discipline clubs fit in the society? They take on many initiatives similar to the society, yet are generally very disjoint.
Okay. So I believe that as an engineering society, we should be supportive of anyone who we can support. So discipline clubs are a big part of that. Despite that, I do believe that they're also their own entities. They're there to support their disciplines. They're there to do technically what the engineering society does on a broad scale. With that said, I do believe that the engineering society should be there to support them in whatever endeavors they can, and be there as a constant liaison to any resources available to them, and help them pursue their goals too. Like they have their own goals, they have their own pursuits, and if we can help them out with that or make it known that we're there to help, then all the better. Thanks, Taylor.
Thanks, Taylor. So I think that the most important thing and the most valuable thing we can do for our discipline clubs is to provide them with resources. I don't think we need to take over their initiatives. I think we should let them sort of tackle those on their own, because I think it's much easier to tackle these issues on a discipline-to-discipline basis rather than us trying to do all of it at once. One of my hopes is that if we provide them with sufficient resources and we work with them to develop their resources enough, we can institute things like workshops run by upper year students, which is something that geological engineering already does, and they do it very well. Things like guest speakers for discipline-specific things, which some of our discipline clubs are already organizing, which is awesome. And one of the more important things that I really think we need to look into is implementing something such as the Turk evaluations, which are done in civil, which is a way of sort of giving your professor feedback. I know in most other disciplines, professor feedback isn't really that effective, and I think it's really important. We're here to learn. We need to work on giving constructive feedback to our professors, and I think other disciplines can really learn from civil on that, and that's something that the Engineering Society should be helping them with.
And our final question of the evening from Vice President Dressel.
So we're going to end the evening off on a very classic question. So if there was a zombie outbreak on campus, how would you use the VPSA portfolio to defend the ILC and the people within?
Okay, so if there's a zombie, I just need to clarify.
Yes.
There's a zombie outbreak on campus.
Yep.
Defend the ILC.
Yep.
And protect our students.
Correct.
Okay. I think one of the most valuable things that the Vice President of Student Affairs could do in this situation is to get all of our students into the design bay. It's a very large room and subset of rooms with very thick walls. We also have the new workshops where you can play with carbon fiber, and those are very secure, so I think those would be really helpful. Hopefully we can fit everyone in there. If not, we could look into group rooms or the lounge, I guess, but hopefully the design bay is our #1 priority for that. Thank you.
I love the question, Evan. It's pretty great. Probably the biggest thing here would be to rally the troops. I'm serious. You have your team behind you, so take your team and get everyone together. Make it known that everyone got to work together because zombies are kind of creepy and we want to make content. So rally the troops, know who we have as resources, and know what resources we have in the LC. So I know we have the design bays, we have workshops, and we probably have some food upstairs in the student services office. I'm guessing that they have a fridge. But definitely understand our resources and work together to make a fortification that would rival any wall built between Mexico and the US. I'm sorry about that last one. Thank you.
All right, that's all the questions we have for tonight. We'll move right into closing remarks. Go ahead.
Oh, all right. So my biggest platform points here and the things I care most about are empowering students. I want to make the best experience for all of you in whatever time you have left here. I want to know what your passions are, and I want to make resources available to you. And if those resources are not available, then I want to work with you to see how we can make it happen. I want to create these opportunities for you guys, and I want to help you make the most of your experience here. Additionally, like I said before, we have a great community here. I want to keep this spirit up. I want to foster this community that we have in helping everyone and being able to pass by people in the halls of different buildings, along sidewalks, be able to say hi and ask for help when needed. And I want to make it known that we as a community should work together in pursuing our individual passions as well as our passions as groups and further. I believe that I can bring a different perspective to this position as, like I said before, I've been around the Engineering Society ever since probably the first week when I moseyed on into the Engineering Society lounge and said hi to a random person sitting on the couch. And ever since then, I've enjoyed my time here. I've loved the experience. I've loved talking to you guys and hearing about what you guys are passionate about. And I want to help you guys further this. In getting involved through just lounging around the lounge and through the various different services I've been involved with, such as the communications team, as constitutional guru, as a member of Otis, I've gained experience and knowledge about the Engineering Society and believe I can give this outside perspective that is different from anyone who's actually been a part of the Engineering Society. So hopefully I can gain your support. And on January 30th and 31st, vote Cody for BPSA. Thanks, guys.
So something that I've talked about a couple of times today is my experience and why I think that would help me in this role. I've been fortunate enough to see 3 executive and director teams, one of which fairly up close. And I think that that would give me a really good perspective when entering the role of Vice President of Student Affairs. Everything sort of trickles down from that top executive and director team, and I think that I know what makes and what breaks a really good team in that sense. I've talked a couple times about how the accessibility of our spaces is really important to me. I would love to try to rebrand the Engineering Society Lounge into the ILC Lounge and make sure that our general member feels comfortable entering that space whenever they need to use a microwave or to print something or just to hang out and play foosball. I think that we as the Engineering Society should be able to be leaders on this campus in equity. We have the resources available. We should be taking the lead in something like this and our push for equity on campus. I think my work as the Science Team AMS rep over the last year will allow me to work really well with whomever gets elected as the new AMS executive to ensure that both our equity needs are being met and also that our students' opinions are being heard and being listened to at the higher levels of the university. I'm also very prepared to work with our discipline clubs to ensure that they are getting all of the resources that they need to enhance our average student experience on a basic level that is their education. I had a really good time debating with Heather tonight. You were delightful, as usual. Thanks everyone for your questions. You can check me out on Facebook, JJ for BPSA, number 4. And yeah, I hope I get your vote on January 30th and 31st. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much to everyone who came out, everyone who was watching on our live stream, everyone who asked questions, and especially to all our candidates. I wish them the best of luck with their campaigns. Hopefully we'll see everyone back here tomorrow night for our president and senator debates. Thanks, everyone.